Okay, I think it's noon, so it's time to start. Can you hear me okay?
Maybe a little bit.
Everybody hear me? It's too loud. No.
Not enough.
Not enough. There we go. Is that better?
Yep, a little bit. Maybe a little higher.
Stay there. Okay. All right. Hey, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today for two things. Number one, for coming to honor the graduates, but more importantly, maybe, is thank you so much for giving us the time to borrow your employees one day a month for 8 months. Without that help, without that support, we couldn't make it happen. So we certainly appreciate that. The class knows how much I appreciate quotes, and one of them that I really like is in the belief that the power in families, in organizations, and in groups of people is the capacity generated by relationships. And this class has done a wonderful job and is a perfect example of this concept. They've built strong relationships. They've created a powerful plan based upon those relationships to improve our community. We are so honored that they have done that, and we thank you for joining us today to also honor that and to get a good view of what this project plan will look like. Okay, if I can have your attention, we're going to continue to move on. Please continue eating and those things as we go on. But it's my great pleasure now to introduce to you an alumni of this program, Luke Henry. For those of you who don't know Luke, he's a passionate visionary, a developer, an entrepreneur with a specific focus on downtown Marion. You will hear some of his story, and that he's going to share that with you today. But his past is interesting, and his passion for Marion is infectious. He's a founder and president of ProScape Land and Landscape Services. He's a managing partner in the Main Street Reimagined and Henry Development Group, with projects including, and these are things you'll know when you go downtown, the Brickyard on Main, the Union, Topped Ice Cream, an eatery, Style 124 Salon Suites, Elevate Hair and Beauty Salon, as well as other storefronts and offices, lofts and apartments in our downtown area. A critical person in the re-imaging of downtown Marion. We're so fortunate to have him with us today to share his story and his vision. Luke.
All right, let me get situated here a little bit so I'm not messing with it. All right, so I appreciate the invite to speak. I was told by somebody in the know that you're very desperate for speakers for today, but this is the best paying gig I've had really for quite some time. So thank you for lunch and the opportunity to get to speak to you a little bit here. I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit. So great job, class of 2021-22, Leadership Marion. If your Leadership Marion experience has been like mine was, you've had many unique and fulfilling experiences in the last year. You've expanded your experiences, your relationships, your network, and you've learned a lot about the Marion community, from small and large businesses here, the downtown, government, schools, and nonprofits. You've likely had new ideas about ways you can help others get more involved yourself in positive change, or perhaps start a business. As you wrap up the Leadership Marion experience and start to look out into the future for new ways to put that knowledge in connection to work, this is where all of the questions, the doubts, the fears start coming in. You know, questions like, is what I'm thinking totally crazy. Is anybody else thinking the same thing? Where would I even start? So here's my challenge and my takeaway message for you today. Just take the next right step. Just take the next right step. I want to start by sharing a little bit of my own story. Some of you have heard pieces and parts of this before, but it's taken lots of crazy twists and turns, and so if you're looking for a really linear, logical life path, I'm probably not the person to ask advice from. But however, you all asked me to speak and you gave me about 10 minutes. So if nothing else, sit back and be entertained with kind of how I got to where I am today. So since our time is limited, I'll keep it to the career and professional bullet points. But I started my very first business when I was 15 years old. That was Luke's Lawns. I didn't know much, but I knew that I needed money to buy my first car and to start taking girls out on dates. And so I started mowing lawns. I just took the next right step. I quickly found out that taking girls out on dates took more than just money, and so I realized I needed to also work on my salesmanship. So I did that, and I took the next right step of learning how to sell, how to talk with people, how to build a network and relationships. And it turns out that some of those skills helped me sell some more mowing jobs as well. So coupled with the work ethic I got from my grandparents, who are all farmers, I kept on taking more and more lawns to mow through high school. That was my next right step. So that turned into learning how to do landscaping jobs, paver patios, fertilizing, irrigation, and snow removal. I never knew really all that I needed to get into a new line of business, but I just kept taking the next step forward. Somewhere along the line, I decided that pharmacy decided like a respectable career. I think my mom told me that it was. And so I got a job at a pharmacy in high school while mowing lawns, and decided that I would keep mowing lawns as a means to an end. And I enrolled in pharmacy school at Ohio Northern University to get my Doctor of Pharmacy degree. So I didn't know what I would ultimately do with the landscaping business, but again, I needed money to put myself through pharmacy school, so I kept doing it, just took the next right step that I thought. So while at Ohio Northern, I bought my first rental house when I was 19 years old, and that becomes important later in the story here because I learned a lot through having that first rental property. It was a lot like the first car I ever bought. It needed worked on a lot, and so I learned a lot as I had to do that all the time. So I learned about frozen pipes and old boilers and roofs and working with contractors, and learned how to do a lot of the repair and maintenance work myself. Learned about taxes and insurance and tenants and mortgages. But every time something new came up, which, like I said, happened pretty frequently, I had the attitude that I would just learn what I needed to learn and keep going and just taking what I believed was the next right step. So I did graduate. I did get a respectable pharmacist job right here in Marion, and I kept doing landscaping on the side. As time had went by, I'd grown the landscaping business over time, and through high school, college, and then as I was working my first couple of years in pharmacy, and I was growing a team and just taking one step at a time, still doing the same thing. Was a pharmacist also. I started buying rental properties and flipping some houses, and eventually something had to go, my wife told me. And I didn't want it to be her, and so I decided that I was going to have to give up something, and so I decided to quit my job as a pharmacist, and made that very unlikely and kind of crazy decision. It was white collar, it was stable, it was what I spent 6 years of my life getting a doctorate to go do, but after 2 years I decided that was the right decision. So I paid back my sign-on bonus. I got a lot of sideways looks, and sometimes I even wondered if I had made a mistake, but after a lot of thought and prayer and soul searching and contemplation with my wife, I took the next right step. So let me pause there to share a little secret. Sometimes the next right step isn't logical. Sometimes it's not popular. Sometimes you're the only one that even believes that it's the next right step. But it's highly personal. It's highly you. And it's the way that you go after your biggest visions and your greatest passions. So, in the interest of time, I'll kind of truncate the next 9 years or so, but suffice it to say that it involved more of the same. Once I quit my job as a pharmacist, I was all into doing landscaping and kept kind of learning and growing, failing, getting up, trying again, continuing to just take it a step at a time. So I built a team at my landscaping business, which became ProScape, along the way, and kept buying rental properties and learning more about business and leadership and real estate and meeting a lot of really, really good people through all of these different things I was doing. And during that time, I heard and internalized a quote that I want to share with you. Maybe John's already shared it because it sounds like he's the quote king here. But I still live by it today, and I believe it strongly, that in 5 years, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the people you meet and the books that you read. In 5 years, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the people that you meet and the books that you read. And when I heard that, I decided to get really intentional about reading. I've read hundreds of books since then, and I got really intentional about meeting all kinds of different people, and many of them I met as a direct or indirect result of my time in Leadership Marion. And it was a really great experience, fantastic experience that I still look back at as, you know, the genesis of some of the relationships that I have and I value a lot. So, you know, you all have made the same decision that I did to take part in this program, participate, and I know that you're different than you were who you were when you started, and that you're preparing to make some really big moves, to make changes and make a positive impact on our community. So that's really exciting to me. So continuing on with the story, in 2018, I started the biggest, most hairy, audacious thing that I have ever attempted in what my wife now refers to as a midlife seizure. I called up Alex Sheridan one day, who I'd only met a couple of years prior, through a course of events that tied back to my short stint in pharmacy. And I knew Alex was interested in doing some work downtown, so I proposed to him joining up and aligning our passions and our abilities. And on July 5th, 2018, we sat and had lunch on the sidewalk in front of By Grace Restaurant on South Main Street, and we identified 8 buildings on that block that we thought that we could buy. And at the time, Alex had already bought a couple that he was kind of casually working on, and he had told me he'd done some research and he figured out that about $300,000 would fix up each of those buildings. And we kind of still look back on that and laugh, and now I triple any construction estimate that he ever gives me, because that's about right. And looking back now, it's really pretty embarrassing to think how little each of us knew about what we were getting into and what it would take to move things forward. But we've learned a lot thus far. We've learned a lot through the way. And we've continued to fail and get up and just keep taking one step and another, and we've got all the bumps and bruises and scars to show from along the way. But we bought those buildings, we came up with the concept of Main Street Reimagined, we started sharing our plans and started networking with potential tenants that maybe we could get to come and occupy these buildings on South Main Street in Marion. So we talked to somebody that in another community had an ice cream shop and a hair salon and a restaurant and some retail stores. And all of them came, all of them looked, and they said all the same thing. They said, hey, we love your vision, we love your spunk. It's really too early in this process. Nothing's been proven. We don't know that we want to put our money on the line to make this happen. So, undeterred, we decided, okay, well, we'll just start the first few businesses in these buildings and kind of get the momentum going. So, that's what you do when you're passionately committed to making something work and not just, casually interested in giving it a shot. So we decided to just take it one step at a time. Then came a global pandemic. 3 weeks after we opened our wedding and event venue, the Brickyard on Main, 8 months after we had just opened Top Ice Cream and Eatery, and just a few weeks before our planned opening of another event venue, the Union, and hair salon style 124. So all really great businesses to be in during COVID, by the way. The businesses that all got shut down and make money when people gather and people weren't allowed to gather. So, but with resolve, we continue just taking what we believe to be the next right step, then the next, then the next. In all, I look back at that time, and I was leading 6 businesses representing over 100 families who were looking to me for answers that I didn't have. And like many of you, the last 2 years have been filled with painstaking decisions, sleepless nights, and new challenges, but also some new opportunities. So, next step, next step, next step. Today our work continues downtown. We continue to look to the future with some really big plans. We're still all in, and we believe that the soul of our community is in our downtown, and we will continue to just keep taking the next right step. So, now that you've heard a little bit of my story, I turn the spotlight to all of you. What big dream do you have? What nagging thought can you just not shake? What vision do you have for this community where you specifically can make a positive impact? Are you ready to make a move? You want to start picking up some trash, fix up a house, champion a cause, support a nonprofit, start a business? If you do, I have space for you. Me personally, like many of you, I'm all in. I've never been more excited for the future of our downtown, of our city, of our community. We haven't arrived yet. There's still lots more work to do, but I truly and strongly believe that the best days for Marion are ahead of us. And especially when I look out over the group here, I get really encouraged and excited to have this many more partners working towards a better tomorrow. So, how will we do it? One step at a time. We all just have to take the next right step. Thank you.
Passion, networking, vision, risk-taking, and never, never, never surrender. The next right step. Thanks, Luke. I really appreciate that. So now we're going to hear about the passion of a group of leadership, soon-to-be graduates, who are going to share with you their vision and their plans for what they consider to be the next right step for downtown Marion, too. It kind of ties in. So with that, I'm going to ask Brandon Hayes to come up and start their presentation, and we'll take it from there. Brandon.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for taking your time and your day. We know it's valuable. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate everybody here. Exactly what Luke said. It takes vision, it takes courage, it takes excitement to make even just a little bit of change. So part of our class and the ultimate goal was to come up with a project that would benefit what we know as our community. So each of the of us here, we had the opportunity to present an idea. They were all good. They were all wild and crazy. So there was one particular idea that was presented, and we all had the opportunity to vote for it. So I personally voted for this. She's going to kill me, but Miss Aaron here had a very passionate idea of, she has a heart for the youth in this community. And let's all face it, our future is nothing if our youth aren't thought about. Amen? So Miss Aaron, wave your little hand. Don't get mad. She's going to kick me later. But she deserves it, because you could just see the passion in her eyes that she had a true passion for this. So that's why I voted. So in case you didn't know that, that's why. So with that being the case, we want to present to you today what our class project is for 21-22. You'll see it's called the Community Youth Center. Two big words there, community and youth. We all know what the youth is, so what's the community? It's all of us in this room. It's people you know, you work with, you play with, whatever. The point is, it truly does take a community or a village to raise a child. Anybody that has kids, you know what I'm talking about. So, if y'all are from around here or think back yesteryear, you might know that where I'm pointing at in this current location, if you can picture kind of behind the Harding Hotel, right behind the downtown municipal or the police department, that's the building. From what I understand, it used to be a community center. Due to funding, it got shifted to different resources. So here we have a property that's just screaming to be used for our youth. So again, with Aaron's passion and idea and the rest of the class coming together with our ideas, we like to present to you the opportunity for Community Youth Center. Next slide, please. All right, so we'll go over a brief summary. So as part of this, you will see here in a little bit, a survey was done. So we just aren't going this by, a fantasy. There is opportunity here. The youth in the community have spoken. Because let's face it, kids these days, they might do it in a different way, but they know what they want. It might be through a text or through digital, but they express themselves in different ways. And their needs, they're looking for an inclusive place of belonging. And we want to be able to allow them to foster relationships, all that we're doing in this room right now. It's all we've done. That's all Leadership Marion is. You foster relationships, as Luke said, to build a better tomorrow, people that he's been able to meet to help him and Alex along that journey. They simply want to hang out and be unique to whatever they feel they need to be unique with. So the Marion class, we've developed a plan to utilize a centralized location for our community partners to come together to help our youth through different mentoring, different programming, which we'll talk about here shortly, and different activities. Each kid, he or she, has a different way that they express themselves. Some's with sports, some's with arts and crafts, some's with video games, some just simply want someone to say hi to them. It sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And the community center will promote a social equity by connecting people from different cultures, social, economic issues, and environmental education, where our main goal is to provide a place where they can learn no matter what type their parents' socioeconomic status is, cultural, and let's face it, we want to make sure we're focusing on the health of our youth, not just physical, but mental. Next slide, please. So a mission statement. Anybody here that's part of an organization, owns an organization, a nonprofit, your mission statement is your calling card. We all know that. So this is what this creed is going to be about, because it's important to know, no matter all the things we talked about today, it has to lead up to this. And in the future of it, we have to follow a mission statement. So ours simply is this. It's by creating a safer place of belonging, we will surround the youth in our community with open doors, hearts, and minds. We will offer programming, opportunities, and foster relationships while striving to empower our youth to face life's challenges. Next, please. So who's the target audience? Who's your customer? We feel that that is youth in the grades 6 to 12 in and around our community. It's such a pivotal time right now in our country in this age that our youth in this school age are being given opportunity, resources to be themselves, to learn, to be mentored to have opportunities. So that's our target audience. And the biggest thing is to expand youth programming opportunities. And we'll talk more about that, what different types of programs and the ideas are here in a few minutes. Next slide, please. So a youth survey was done. So I'm going to bring John up because he helped facilitate it, and he can tell you more about exactly, and you'll be kind of shocked to know like what kids or youth, what they want. Again, us adults always think we know, but the kids will tell you if you just listen to them. So, John, go ahead.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm John Meharry from Ohio State Marion, and I didn't really facilitate the survey. I just did some of the data analysis, and I'm happy to be able to share it here. Hopefully, a lot of you have seen there is a survey out. It's been on the Chamber Facebook page and other places, and they've shared it with a lot of the schools that we've done in the last few weeks as we finish this program and start the project. To this point, earlier in the week, we had surveyed 186 students, mostly middle school students from the Marion City schools, but we're continuing to reach out to other groups. Particularly, we'd like to see from the high school students. So if you, on your table or when you came in, there's a QR code. If you want to pass this along to any middle school or high school students in our target audience. So we'd appreciate that. But as Brandon said, we thought we knew what kids needed. We thought we knew what was necessary in the community, but we thought it was good to ask. And so we did survey, mostly so far it's been 12 to 15-year-olds, and almost all from Marion City schools, but some from the other county schools. Almost half of them said they're not involved in any extracurricular activities. 52% of them said they're bored over the summer, and I'll bet the number's actually higher than that. 30% said they don't have anybody to talk to. 20% said they needed a place to go in the summer and after school, and they don't have a safe space. And by safe space, maybe click, I think we say, well, no, it's not on it. Safe space, they're asking for where they can be themselves. They talked about anti-bullying, they talked about mentoring, they talked about relationships, they talked about food insecurity. Those things were incorporated into safe space for these students. So go ahead. We did ask them what they're interested in, and I think naively we all said, oh, there's a huge gym at this place, let's throw out some dodgeballs and basketballs and everybody will be happy. But they had a lot more ideas than that. I think we were surprised at how many people said they really wanted arts and crafts, activities that, and so now we're reaching out to groups that might be able to provide those programming. There was a lot of, obviously sports, but also games and gaming, video games, but it got to be more the academic with robotics and technology, computer science, things. So trying to find those sorts of programming. There was a lot of music, not just listening, but also making. People wanted to play their instruments. And they just wanted a place to hang out. So we took these almost 200 responses and tried to boil them down. There were more than 18 that said hang out. I just didn't tabulate all of them. They were with everything else. Can you go ahead, Matt? We asked them what they do currently. Is there a need for something? By far, the most common answer was they sleep when they're not in school. That's what they're focused on. Second most common was nothing. What do you do when you're outside of school? I don't know. Nothing. That's not good. And that shows that there is a need for this program. A lot talked about just hanging out, just having a place to be themselves and hang out with friends. And then, of course, there's hang out on your phone and watch TV. And quite a few had work and labeled chores. But these were middle schoolers, and I think I was surprised, and I think other people were too. There were a number that had jobs, not just kind of work at home or watch your little sister, but working at Walmart or McDonald's and places. So they need a place to go and a place to be themselves. So yeah. We asked, what do you want to see in Marion? And by far the biggest answer was, I don't have any idea. I think this might have been the first time a group has reached out to a lot of these students and said, what's your opinion about this? They hadn't thought about it. So no idea, I don't know. Second in that was, we need a safe space, away from bullying, away from the peer pressure and the kind of middle school issues. A lot of students asked for LGBTQ support, mentoring for students, food insecurity. They talked about all these big issues that middle schoolers are raising that we feel we can provide some support for those things at this new center. In addition to the sports, playground activities and things like that. Yeah, sorry, I'm making you jump around. Are we?
It's really Aaron.
Who else? Aaron's jumping around. I don't know. I'm good with that. The other question is, a lot of these activities are provided at the Y. That's true. But as Brandon said, there's a downtown. There's not a lot for students to get to. We asked about their transportation, and a lot said they had easy transportation, but it was almost always relying on mom and dad if they explained it. And a lot of kids said they could take a bus wherever they want to, or ride their bikes. But you can't ride your bike out to the Y. If you live downtown or in lots of areas, neighborhoods, that's hard to get to. And so trying to find this centrally located place might be a real need in the community. And there were a significant number of students suggested they don't have transportation or easy access. So all those things combined to kind of reinforce what we were thinking about for this program, but also give us ideas about what activities they need and what community partners we can reach out to and work with, which leads to, back to Brandon, and I think Evan Geyer is going to come up and talk about the next thing.
So something that's kind of like this, put yourself in the mind of ask yourself a question. Question with a question. Think back to when you were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. What was your life like? Some of us were fortunate, some of us were less fortunate, some of us had parents that guided us or kicked us in the rear end. I can still picture Dad's belt, unfortunately. But some of us had that. Some kids just don't. Kids are starving for certain things of attentions, and obviously us as a community, we'd rather our kids be focused on positives because they're hearing all the negatives. With Facebook, social media, TV, it's like, I don't personally like it. I think, so why not have a space the kids can go be themselves and hopefully learn something. So just as we go through this, keep that question in your mind. Think back when you were their age. I know times are different, but hopefully that helps you think about why this passion is there and what's going on currently in our country. So some of the goals, obviously a safe place. Who doesn't want a safe place for a child? Free of bullying, free from judgment. That is part of the mission statement. Kids can go without judgment, free of bullying. They can be themselves through sport, conversation, activities, whatnot. Food. We all need a driver to get someplace. If I had to list 3 ways that would get me somewhere, food would be 1 through 3. So I'm sure that's the reason a lot of you folks just came today is because there was a free lunch provided. Or at least was it free? Okay, it's free lunch. So there you go. So it provides an insecurity. I mean, to think that a kid, we all see these TV commercials of starving kids in different countries, and it's like to think that we potentially have a kid in our own back door that even for one meal is hungry. That's just hard to think about, but it is the truth. Future programming. So you see where it says fall of 2022. We obviously aren't that naive to think we can just go down there tomorrow and bam, Fantasy Island, right? It's going to take time, it takes effort. That's part of the presentation. So the goal is fall of 22 to have the activities or programming that you see here to ultimately be the goal. And we'll get to in a later slide of what's going to be our first initiative. Long term, so like any project, what's the long-term goal? What's the long-term implications? So yeah, again, why not think fantasy? To say there could be future locations in and around Marion or Marion County. The target age increases. Big difference between a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old. Different stage of life, things going on. So maybe that 17-year-old needs help filling out a resume or a college application. I know our schools provide that, but there's some kids that don't feel comfortable with that. So maybe a center like this, they could have a mentor that could work with them. Transportation, as we talk about, that's what would separate us from our current folks in the community that offer something like this is the transportation status. It is hard to get to certain places for a kid that parents just aren't available. So maybe that's something we talk about with the future is getting kids to the sites. And then there's always additional opportunities that come from it. That's kind of the unknown long term, because each kid is going to bring a different form of opportunity, and I believe that that the program would be open to learning what those opportunities are when they come. Next slide, please. So Evan, my friend Evan here is going to help me do a SWOT analysis. I think anyone's ever seen the old SWOT analysis, but we just feel it's the best way to describe the good, bad, and the ugly of what we're talking about. So we can just so think back to your economic days class, and we're going to go that approach. So while I got the make-believe microphone, I'll start with strengths. So obviously, the biggest strength is the building itself. You know, we have a Ferrari in the garage that's gassed up, probably at $5 a gallon, ready to go. We just need, it's there ready. So we just need someone to get behind it and drive it. So that's it. It's centrally located. There's a lot of kids. I wish we had like an exact number. I'm sure there's some we could find how many kids are in a certain walking radius, call it half a mile of this center. It's probably more than what we think. So where it's located, it's easy for kids in this age group to get to. I think a 12 to 14-year-old's capable of walking to this spot. Even if they're not, hopefully we can work on that in the future. And then we have the support from the Marion County YMCA and Marion City Schools. There has been verbal communication with these community partners that we can partner with. The Marion City Schools leases the building from the city, which means they have basically the rights to it, and they are open to us using that, because they feel passionate enough, just like we do, there is opportunity and need for what we're talking about. So those are the three biggest strengths we came up with.
And obviously with any SWOT analysis, the weaknesses are going to be areas that we need to identify and attack immediately. We understand with a building like this, there are going to be needs, equipment, renovations, so there needs to be some sort of funding structure that we can come together and kind of plan out, so we can get those things set up and get those things accomplished, so when we are ready to open the doors, we have spaces set aside for the kids to have the mentoring, to have the art classes, to have the gaming centers. We have the equipment necessary to play basketball, to host dodgeball tournaments, and so forth. So we also understand duplication is probably a big concern within our community. With being a close-knit community, we understand the Boys and Girls Club and having their approval and understanding we're not going to do the same services that they do at the same time. So the YMCA being a big partner with us, understanding that we're not going to do the same things that they're going to do at the same time, and so forth. So understanding what those duplications are going to be very imperative as we move forward. And then this is a new idea, all right, right now. 20 years ago, it wasn't a new idea, but today it's a new idea, so we need to understand that parental support is going to be huge, and we need to communicate that. We need to get the word out to the families that we're going to provide this opportunity for their kids. Community trust is a big important piece of this too, because it is a new idea. And then lastly, big piece, the buy-in from the kids. They need to understand it's there and why it's there and what we're going to do while they're experiencing their time at the community center. So opportunities.
So some of the opportunities that we found that the biggest things with this center is the future is additional programming for all ages. Like I had mentioned, big difference between a 12-year-old and maybe even a 16-year-old. That might require different programming. different things that might equip them to be not only better human beings, but opportunity, whether it be work or athleticism or mentoring or even thinking deeper, counseling, things like that. So that there's additional programming. Again, the sky's the limit with this, so that's a good thing. Positive media. We all know what this means. It's so easy to get negative media that this would have to be an extreme opportunity that is 100% supported and backed, monitored, watched, because it's so quick to get negative. But if we can turn it and ensure that the media itself is picked up on it as a positive thing for the youth, then I think that will really help. Unfortunately, all it takes is one bad post, and the next thing you know, it's just we see it and everything. So positive media is an opportunity that we think we would be able to build on, because again, if we have the buy-in of the youth, they're quick on it, so they can go and get other kids there, and hopefully they could need the services. And then being a part of the youth community. Again, like I've been saying about a million times, is the youth talk. They know what's going on. So if they can have a positive vibe, we can really build something special. So we view that as an opportunity. It's going to give them something to do, a safe place. And so I think we can build on that through positive media and the youth itself in the community.
And obviously with the SWAT, we have the threat, the issues that we know are going to come to head at some time. And obviously the behavior of students, of the youth that are going to be in the building itself, and we're going to have some structure in place so they understand what the rules and the implications are for being a part of this community center. And then that goes in hand with the destruction of the property. What's that going to look like as far as making sure that the kids take ownership in the facility that we're utilizing, with our partnership with Marion City Schools and so forth. So we have strategies in place. We've met with the city schools on a number of occasions already, discussing those sort of things. What's that look like during the school year? While they have class in session. What's it going to look like in the summer when we have more space to fill up? So obviously those are things that we'll continue to work through as we move along. But things that we need to make sure that the kids understand that they're a part of this and that they need to take ownership of it as well. So, excellent.
All right, so some partners. We've talked about community partners. And again, I think it's important to point out that we might have some names up here that are folks that we've spoken with already and have shown interest in support. But I think it's important to state that this is ongoing. The whole community should be a partner. So I just want to make that loud and clear that if you leave here and you think this sounds like a good idea, then I would encourage you to really think about how you might be able to help with this. But I mentioned Marion City Schools. They control the building. The superintendent there has been nothing but gracious, from what I understand, of talking and saying, yes, we understand there is this need. We have this building that can be utilized. It's ready to go. There's been a few meetings with him, and it sounds like there's opportunity, even some verbal communication, that a grant is available for a permanent director at the center, which is a big piece that hasn't been mentioned yet. So if you ask yourself, well, who's going to run this? So that has been talked about. There's verbal communication with that, which would be very important. It's important for kids to see the same face or faces. It gives them a sense of confidence, a sense of learning from, and all that. The YMCA, again, as we talked about, the YMCA has services like this, but where it's geographically located, we can partner with them, and there's been communication that they can help. So if there's something that they can't do, this center would be able to, or even the YMCA itself could take some of their services to bring downtown. So whether it be certain activities, so it would be a great community partner. Obviously, community members already, again, that's the big time future here, is anybody can partner with this. There's not a certain boxes you have to check. If you're any type of company, organization, individual, it doesn't even be money. It can just be your time, your passion. There's different things. There's someone that is good at or passionate about water painting. Then that would be a great opportunity for this individual to come down and teach a kid, and next thing you know, you might have the next Bob Ross. I can't think of any other water banners, but I'm just saying, you never know. So take those talents and be open to teaching a young person something there. And again, partnering with the youth, and we'll talk about what that's going to mean here in a minute. That's critical. The youth, that'll give them a chance to shine, take leadership. Well, they say the best way to learn is to teach. So, if a youth is good at something for whatever it is, and if they can teach other kids, then who knows, they might be a future teacher themselves or something like that. So there will be invitations sent to businesses, organizations, and all the community to join the initiative to foster meaningful opportunities. So yes, sometimes you got to annoy people with something. If you're passionate about it and have an initiative, let people know it's out there, and we will. So we don't want all the work to be in vain just because it's an idea. It's kind of reach more than an idea. It's an actuality. So expect to see stuff in different types of media about it, and there will be invitations. Again, it's not all about money. We always think we just want, any organization just wants your money. Again, time, talent, resources is just as important. Next slide. All right, so an operations plan. Is anybody bored yet? You can admit it. When I talk, I usually bore people. But, so, this all stuff's important. It helps you understand what the process is. So an operations plan, and I'll get through this very quickly. We talked about some partnerships that we've already formed with Marion City Schools and the YMCA, which are two critical partners for what's being discussed. Marion City Schools, again, we've talked about some grant funding available to support a program coordinator, why that's important. Again, normal face relationships built that a child would feel comfortable with talking about whatever, the Cleveland Browns going to the Super Bowl next year, or that would get you laughing, or whatever's going on at home. That's the importance. The facility is currently being leased, as I said, by Marion City Schools, and the superintendent has agreed for this initiative to utilize the facility. Again, Ferrari's gassed up, ready to go. We just need to get it in the driver's seat. Sorry, Sheriff, but speed down the road. And there has been interest in forming other partnerships within the city, which again, that could be limitless. There's been many discussions. You look at a place like the First Church Nazarene and what they've done for their section of downtown. There's so many opportunities there. So far, there's been 2 committees formed to let you know that we are kind of serious. Because when you form a committee, that means you're serious and it's real. I think those that are on these committees is because they weren't in class that day. That's how you get on a committee. You don't show up to the meeting. I've learned that the hard way many times. Strategic Plan Committee, obviously anything you put together, you got to have a strategic plan. Let you know we're kind of serious about it. There is some strategy behind this. Community Relations Committee, again, I've been blabbering about now for 20 minutes is the whole community partner thing. So having a committee so we keep that under control. We know who we've talked to, the who, wow, why, when. So that committee is there to help build upon that. To be established, TBE just created that. Which I think this is big. A youth council. Basically what this youth council is, again, kids know what's going on, so they need to be the voice. So it's a council of kids that fit the age graphic. So it's like an advisory council. For anybody that's on an advisory council, that's kind of the idea. That simply says, here's what we know is going on, here's things the other kids are talking about. So here's some different programming or ideas that they could bring that could be there. Anybody that their kids are involved in, like 4-H or anything, each club has its own there's no governing, it's just a way for them to learn how to be leaders and conduct meetings and get their opinion, voice, resource together. A finance committee, obviously, if any community member donating their gracious gift of money, you obviously want to make sure you have a committee that's crossing the T's and dotting the I's, because that's just a big deal, as you all can imagine. And then a marketing committee, keeping it going, make sure that it's out there, what's being done, so people can see that there's positives coming out of it. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the we're almost done. So anybody, you can be excited about that. The summer lunch program. This is going to be the kind of the ribbon cutting, the way to get people in there to say, okay, what's actually going on with this place? They can come to the site, learn more about it, get excited about it. Volunteers there to kind of share the news, spread the word. So if anyone's not aware, they're currently in the summer, there is sites available for kids within the area to have access to free lunch, which is a big deal. Currently there are 16 sites within this general community. So through the idea of this, which I think is a big deal, we now will become the 17th location. So again, it's real. So you might think, I know when I first heard that, I was like, that sounds like a lot. But Doris pulled up a geographical map, and the closest one, so if I'm a child that lives somewhat downtown, the closest one's the Marion Public Library. I probably would walk there for a, burger and fries, but kids may not want to, or parents may not feel comfortable with their kids walking uptown that far. So this actually, we hope, will fill a void for kids in this area, in that particular area, to get access to a free lunch, a nutritious lunch. Again, as was talked about, there is unfortunately a lot of kids without school. They don't have access to a nutritious meal. So the youth center will be open from June 6th to July 28th, Monday through Thursday, for this very thing, 11:15 a.m. to 12:15. And so basically that could change based off the school system, those dates and times. That's what we're being told. So what that will do, that will allow volunteers to come in to take care of it, get the process rolling. Kids can see the center, maybe meet volunteers, spread the word, and put their eyes on it, which is a big deal. And community members, gets them to be able to see that, wow, I've driven by this place 1,000 times. I didn't know what this thing looked like inside. So again, it's the driver, it's the, come in, open an account, get a free toaster type deal. Okay, so that's what's going to happen with the summer lunch program. If we can fill a couple of needs, and again, the future's bright. There's many opportunities. Like any other committee, being open to ideas is important. It's a community center, so I think that would be important. If you have ideas, then please let us know. It has to be that way. There's things maybe we just didn't think about, have time. Maybe you work with youth in the community that you've heard things from that we just haven't had the knowledge of. So we're excited about it, as you can tell. There has been a lot of work behind it. So with this being the case, the future and sustainability of it is an important thing to talk about. The community center is going to, with the summer food site and the community partners, and then in the coming months, the programming will start to be built based off the needs of the youth. Anything from a basketball to a painting. Depends on the need of that youth, and we hope to see what the future holds for it. There's passion behind it, which is always the key, and I think with that, we just hope. But I'll end with this. Just being a numbers guy, we all have our favorite number, but I think the most important number is the number 1. Again, this might sound cheesy, but even if one kid is reached, I think this got brought up in the class, then it's well worth the time. If that one kid that just didn't have somebody to talk to, learn from, hang out with, if that one kid is changed, challenged, can help the community in the future, then I'd say is a mission success. So that's what we got. Is there any questions, concerns, comments? Like the presenters, anything like that?
I think real quick, before we get to questions, Matt, Doris, thank you guys so
Yes.
much. I mean, none of this is possible without the program. John, I knew John as Mr. Shank, knew John as Principal Shank, Adam and Ethan, Kelsey's dad, got to know him throughout the process. Him facilitating this has been outstanding, so thank you. Aaron, stand up. Stand up, Aaron. Stand up, Aaron. Because Brandon mentioned a little bit about what we had to do to implement ideas, and I think a couple of us had a page or two, a couple of us had 3 or 4. She came in with like a 23-page synopsis of why this was important in Marion County. So thank you so much, Aaron, for doing that. We really appreciate it.
Speech, Aaron? I'll bring it over to you.
I successfully avoided it.
But thanks for your time and listening to us, and we hope that if you want more information, we can get that to you. And by all means, we would appreciate any type of time, talent, or resources for the project.
All right, that being said, thank you, Brandon. On the plaques that the graduates are going to receive, there's a quote, and of course, John has to look at the quote. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. You've heard a vision. And I believe, and as I've worked with these groups, this group has the capacity to put this vision and make it a reality. And to me, that's very exciting. So I appreciate everything you all have done to make that happen. With that, we're going to begin the presentation of awards. We're going to invite Pam Workman, who's on the board of directors for the chamber, to come up and help us hand out plaques. And I see that we're starting to move in that direction. So let's go and begin this. First, we have Leslie Berry from the Ohio State University at Marion. Shannon Brandsetter from the Modern Woodman of America. Oh, I gotta slow down. We gotta get pictures. I forgot. There we go. Shannon. Bob Britton was part of our group. He's the superintendent of Ridgedale Local Schools. He's not able to attend because I think we're very close to the end of the year. My wife's telling me to move closer to the mic, so we'll do it. Okay. Bryant Brown from the Marion Municipal Court. Maya Campbell from Ohio Health. Maggie Carmichael from the Marion Municipal Court. Jessica Coleman, who is also not able to be with us today, from the Legacy Mentoring Group. Sony Dawson from the Union Bank. Anthony D'Armand from Sika Corporation. Lydia Fry from the Marion County Sheriff's Office. Geyer from Dostal and Kirk Insurance and Financial Services. Andrew Grimes from the Marion Family YMCA is not able to attend today. Brandon Hayes from Park National Bank. Carrie Hinkle from Ohio Health. Catherine Hughes from the Marion Public Library. Jensen from Poet Bioff Refining is not able to be with us today. Rob Coombs from FC Bank, Division of CNB Bank. Molly Long from Alluvio Private Wealth. John Meharry from the Ohio State University of Marion. Luke McCoy from Bernhard Insurance. Ben Moore, Marion City Schools. Michelle Ryman Lilly from Marion Matters. Aaron Slater from Ohio State University of Marion. Danielle Smith from Marion Technical College. Chris Smith from Whirlpool Corporation, Marion Operations. Anna Tinarillo from Buckeye Community School, Marion. Jim Vance, Johnson Supply. Tamara Ward, the Fahey Bank Company. We have Austin Wellnow from Whirlpool Corporation, who was not able to attend, along with Adam Wickham from River Valley Local Schools, who was also unable to attend. Carrie Wolf from the Marion Technical College. Heather Wright from the Marion Family YMCA. Ryan Zemter from the Marion County Sheriff's Office. And Brant Zucker, First Citizens National Bank. That concludes our presentation of awards. And just a few comments just for me to really quick. I just want to thank all of you. Again, a reminder for giving us your employees during this time. We know, especially this year, that was a tremendous sacrifice with all the staffing things. We appreciate that help. And to the class, thank you so much. Every time I do this, I learn more. I create more relationships. And it keeps me a little bit younger. And I really appreciate that. So thank you all for joining us today.